I'm Randy White,
I'm Connor Rives.
I'm Theo Bonnie.
and you're listening to the I-FormNation podcast. We're going to start the show discussing our reactions to the outcome of the Super Bowl and the refereeing controversy and everything in between that. And we're going to finish up with high-profile quarterbacks that could potentially be moving or staying this offseason.
All right, so I'll start with the Super Bowl. I just want to say I'd like to send a formal apology to the Cincinnati Bengals and their fans. I completely underestimated the Bengals. My big thing going in was that I didn't think that the Bengals offensive line was going to be able to hold up, which we saw at the end. It fell apart. But overall, I think they performed really well. We saw a lot of triple coverage on Aaron Donald, which I thought was pretty funny. But overall, I was impressed, and the Bengals have a very bright future.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The issue with the Bengals is they're in the AFC, and the AFC right now is the epicenter of young, talented quarterback play. You've got Josh Allen in Buffalo. You've got Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, Justin Herbert in that same AFC West division with the Chargers, and then Lamar Jackson in the AFC North as well. That's flooded with young quarterback talent. These are guys that a lot of them are going to be around for 10 plus years playing Hall of Fame level caliber quarterback play is what I think a lot of people, including myself, feel like we're going to see out of those four quarterbacks, or at least three of them. So the Bengals getting back will be a real challenge. The offensive line was the X factor of that game, like everyone knew it would be. 7 sacks, ties the NFL record for sacks in a Super Bowl, and a pressure by Aaron Donald at the end obviously ended the game and won the game for the Rams. So I saw the game being close. I predicted it close, and it finished close. It came down to, unfortunately, somewhat anticlimactic final drive, but still a really fun game. And absolutely, Bengals have a bright future ahead of them if they can shore up that offensive line.
I'll do something that no one has done yet. Congratulations to the Rams, Sean McVay, Aaron Donald. They deserve it. Again, at the second half, Zach Taylor again, halftime adjustments and all that. He did great again. I was a little confused at the beginning of the game. Rams were running a lot. They were running the ball a lot, and the Bengals, their offense, they both switched up a little bit, which I wasn't expecting. And but Matthew Stafford, I mean, that final drive that he put together, and him and Cooper Kupp is just it proves that Matthew Stafford was never the problem in Detroit, and he's a Hall of Fame talent quarterback. We're not going to talk about his Hall of Fame status right now. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. But and then Cooper Kupp, of course, he just proves he's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL this year, best wide receiver this year. And that final play with Eli Apple is just so fitting. Eli Apple has all the slander in the world, and everybody on Twitter was getting at him, which is so funny. But congratulations to the Rams and Aaron Donald. They deserve this. And for Cincinnati, they did really well. I honestly thought they were going to win that game when it came down to the final drive. I still question that third and 2, 3rd and 1 call. Quick play, no timeout. You don't have any time to discuss it. You run the ball right up the middle with Aaron Donald. I mean, again, I see what they were trying to do, catch him off guard, just run a quick play to get a first down. But it just, to me, I think you need to call a timeout of that position and discuss it over of what you're going to do. It's such a pivotal point in the game. But yeah, it was a great game. Congratulations to all the Rams fans and Rams players and Sean McVay.
Yeah, and I think it's something that people are afraid to say, but yes, Zach Taylor makes fantastic halftime adjustments. He's done it all year. He's done a fantastic job, but that does not make him a fantastic coach. I think he's an okay coach. I think a lot of people give him too much credit because of the team's performance this year, but a lot of that was just Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow and the defense overperforming. Shout out to their defensive coordinator. I'm not sure who it is, but shout out to them. They did a fantastic job this year taking care of a lot of these teams that I don't think most of us expected them to hold below 30 points, 20 points over the course of the year. But yeah, obviously, like you said, congratulations to the Rams and their fans. I'm happy for a lot of those guys on that team: Odell, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, a lot of those more veteran guys that haven't really gotten the opportunity to finally get in their ring. There's it's a topic of conversation, the super teams now in the NFL, and the Rams were certainly that. They were a super team. They were built to win right now. And the future, I'm not sure what it looks like because they gave up all their draft picks. So once these guys go off and they retire, do they just keep trying to play the free agent game, keep trading their draft picks to the end of time? Or are they going to have a couple years where it's going to be a little ugly? So I'm interested to see going forward what the Rams decide to do. At running back, I think it's going to be a crucial spot with Henderson, Michelle, and Akers, with Henderson and Michelle both being free agents. But I'm excited for the Rams just to see what they're able to do going forward. They've got a rough situation over the coming 5-7 years.
F them picks, Connor. You know that. They're not going to be, they're going to, until the end of time. I don't think, Les Snead, I believe is his name, right? I think I got that right. GM, he wore a F them picks shirt to the Super Bowl parade. He's not keeping those first rounders. Those first rounders are leaving town the moment he gets his hands on those. And is anyone more fun? I mean, obviously Tom Brady, the Super Bowl parade last year was a lot of fun, but Matthew Stafford this year gave the best "I love you" speech of all, "I love you, bro" speech of all time, didn't he? On that Super Bowl podium, that was great. So super happy for the Rams. Like Mateo said, Matthew Stafford, a Hall of Fame talent, and he finally was able to go on a team that was great enough around him that he was able to put himself in a position to make big time plays in big time moments. And that was always the discussion about Stafford is, can he make those plays when the moments are their biggest? Can he deliver? And he delivered in a big way. The no-look pass on that final drive to Cooper Kupp, where he looks at the tight end curl. Von Bell comes down from his vertical hook zone to hopefully jump a pass to the third string tight end. And instead he throws the ball perfectly into the window behind Von Bell to Cooper Kupp. And that was just one of several great plays that duo made last night. During the game, Cooper Kupp was absolutely deserving of the MVP. Him and Aaron Donald were the two most impactful players in that game, no doubt. It was a lot of fun. Super happy for the Rams. They deserved it. They had the best team in the league. I mean, that's simple as that. You can talk about the Packers regular season, but that was when it got to the biggest moments, they were the best.
I'll say one more thing about this game. My prediction that the Bengals would force Matthew Stafford into some dumb throws or some turnovers was right. They did that twice. The one tip one wasn't really his fault. It was a missed throw, but it wasn't really his fault. But they weren't able to capitalize. I think one of the reasons they abandoned the run game, I think, too quickly. Joe Mixon, 15 rushes for 72 yards. He was really running on the Rams, and they did not use the screen pass game as much as I thought they would. Samaje P. Ryan, I'm not sure if he even had a target that game, and he was one of their main guys with the screen passes. Joe Mixon out of the backfield, he had 6 catches, but for nothing. So that was one of their game plans, the Rams, to stop that screen pass and that short pass game. And I think that's one of the reasons the Bengals offense struggled. And for the first time this season, I really think the Bengals offense is the reason they lost this game. But then again, they're facing one of the best defenses in the league. So what are you really going to do? I think Joe Burrow played really, really well, especially for big time moment first game, and especially against a defense like that. I think he overperformed, in my opinion. Again, I would like to see him to get the tight end more involved. CJ Uzomah only had two receptions and 2 targets, and I think that would have been a big part, especially if they were having a lot of short passing game. But it is what it is. Even though I was rooting for the Bengals, even though I'm a Browns fan, Rams deserved it. Love Odell getting a Super Bowl ring. That's probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Do keep in mind though, CJ Uzomah has a sprained MCL. So that's all I was going to say about that. Keep that in mind.
So I think the last thing we do need to talk about in this game is the pass interference calls and no calls. Obviously, the first one, the big one with Jalen Ramsey, with Higgins, I think that was very clearly pass interference. I mean, you can't grab a guy's face mask like that and throw him to the ground. You can call that pass interference. You can call that hands to the face. I don't care what you want to call it. It was clearly a penalty, and they just totally let that one go. And all this talk about, oh, the Super Bowl is where Jalen Ramsey gave up the most yards he's ever given up. Like, that's nonsense, because half those yards are on that play. And I mean, that's just a horrible call or horrible no call. And then the horrible call comes with the Logan Wilson play on Cooper Kupp, and they call that pass interference. That was incredible coverage if you're a linebacker and you're on the best wide receiver in the league of the season, and that was perfect coverage, you can't cover a guy better than that. And then they throw the flag. I guess maybe the refs were freaked out that a linebacker had such good coverage on Cooper Kupp, but there's no other excuse. And then obviously Eli Apple, I mean, that was pass interference. That there's nothing to talk about on that one. That was clearly pass interference on his in the end zone. So the refs were a problem. I don't think they truly changed the impact of the entire game. I think maybe they helped shift a little bit of the momentum at the end, but obviously some missed calls and some bad calls.
Well, the referee. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. You said it changed momentum. That Logan Wilson one was on a third down in the goal. I mean, it was like 3rd and 8.
3rd and goal from the 9.
Yeah. So that's a 4th down where we don't know what happens. The Rams, I don't think, had all 3 timeouts. I think that's game over if they don't get it. So we don't know. Again, it was a bad call, but the T Higgins one should not have been a touchdown. I mean, again, Joe Burrow has these. I will say this: Joe Burrow, his arm is not the strongest, but sometimes it helps him out because people are like thinking it's going to be like a perfect over-the-shoulder pass, and they have to come back to the ball. So it just confused defenders out, and that's one of the reasons that they don't call that much. Is it's a really, really hard play to call, even though in the moment I thought it was pass interference, and looking at the replay, it was definitely it's a hard play to call. So
it's a bad angle for the ref for sure. Where that was, where Jalen Ramsey is in front of T. Higgins, so he's got the face mask in front, and the referee is to the back of T. Higgins, so he's not going to see where T. Higgins' hand is.
See, the biggest problem with that is this year they implemented that the officials in New York can quickly call in if there's a clear penalty, and they can quickly call in and have that penalty called.
Are you sure about that? Because I remember last year they had the pass interference was reviewable, but then they got rid of it after last year. So they reviewed pass interferences last year or 2 years ago. I forget which one it was. And it was the year after the Rams Saints NFC Championship with the no call against Nicole Roby-Coleman. And then the year after that, they implemented a review for pass interference, and then they got rid of it. So I don't know what you're talking about. I could be wrong. I could have missed that. But you're saying
I could be wrong as well, but I to my knowledge, the officials in New York can call in quickly on passes that are incomplete or whatever, things like that, just to call in quickly and change the play. You could be right. It could not apply to penalties. I know you cannot challenge pass interference anymore, which that's a conversation for another day. But I just don't get how you miss that. You got multiple officials on multiple angles. Yeah, the main official right there, sure, he had a bad angle, but you have multiple officials that are watching the play. You got the officials down at the bottom of the field that are making sure there's no penalties down there, but you got 3 officials that are looking upfield at the play. So you got 2 other officials there that could have made the call and could have seen the clear face mask on that. It doesn't matter. Didn't end up affecting the game. I mean, the Rams still came out with the victory, but something of note going forward for sure.
One other thing is there was at the end of the first quarter on Jalen Ramsey, there was kind of a close. I actually liked the no call. I liked that the refs were letting him play physical, but there was a jersey tuck. Jalen Ramsey did grab the undershirt of T. Higgins on 3rd and goal or 3rd and 10 from the 11, something like that. They were inside the 15. It was 3rd down. They take a shot for the end zone. The pass goes incomplete. And if that jersey hold doesn't happen, there's a very good likelihood that T. Higgins catches that for a touchdown. So I feel like those 2 plays kind of cancel each other out because one in likelihood takes away a touchdown from the Bengals. And then the other one obviously gave a touchdown to the Bengals on a 75-yard catch and run from Higgins. And like you said, excellent coverage by Logan Wilson on that 3rd and goal from the 9. And I did not like that holding call at all. And I also was not a huge fan of the unnecessary roughness call by Von Bell on the play after that, on the throw to the end zone that Cooper Kupp caught, where there was a unnecessary roughness on Von Bell and a holding on the offense that offset. So it was replay it down. And Von Bell laid a good hit on Cooper Kupp. He caught it anyway. It was an insane catch. and they called unnecessary roughness. I didn't like that, but the refs also missed on the Bengals a holding on Eli Apple, where Eli Apple basically got beat so bad by Cooper Kupp that he was falling backwards, and he grabbed Cooper Kupp's like front chest and tried to pull him down with him, and Cooper Kupp like had to stumble and get back up, and they didn't call that, so it kind of balanced out on that play.
I'm done. I don't have anything else to say.
I didn't think the refs were terrible, and at the end of the day, like you said, they didn't cost the Rams a Super Bowl. They didn't really affect the game tremendously.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I 100% agree. I like I said, I think it helps the Rams keep the momentum on that Logan Wilson call, when they should have lost it. That the momentum should have gone to the Bengals defense on that play, but they were able to keep it, and obviously they came out with the win. But I think it's definitely time that we move on to our next topic, which is the quarterbacks to note during this offseason. So I have 8 or 9, I don't really remember. So I'll just say the quarterback's name, and I'll pass to one of you guys. So the first one obviously is Aaron Rodgers. So Randy, I'm going to let you be all over that one.
So are we just saying like where we think they're going this year? Because I think he stays in Green Bay. The way I see it, there's not really a situation that's better than Green Bay. They're shoring up their really main concerns from last year, and they're already making strides in fixing the cap space. There's been reports that he wanted $50 million per year. There's been plenty of reports saying that's actually not true. And I would tend to believe that's not true, considering everything he's talked about gratitude and how badly he wants to win a Super Bowl. I don't see how you can say that you want to win a Super Bowl extremely badly and then also say that you're going to take up a third of the team's cap space, because that's just not how that works. Football teams don't even go to Super Bowls, and they don't win playoff games either if they have a player take up a third of their cap space. It's just not how that works. It doesn't work that way. So I don't see that report being true. It wasn't about the money last year. I don't think it's about the money this year. It's about long-term commitment, and it's about making sure that Green Bay is all in on fixing everything that is wrong with the team. So obviously special teams, they had a historically bad special teams, and they had a historically bad performance in their playoff loss against the 49ers on their special teams, where they had a blocked punt go for a touchdown. That's the game right there. And they had a blocked field goal that takes 3 points away from the Packers if Crosby does put it through the upright. So that's another 3 points. So that's a 10-point swing just by the special teams. Not to mention that most of the 49ers points that were scored on offense, so I think it was one field goal, maybe 2 field goals, came from, it was 2 field goals, came from big returns by the 49ers return team that put them in opportune field position. They didn't have to drive the field. So they've since then fired their special teams coordinator. They've hired Rich Bisaccia, one of the most respected special teams coordinators in the NFL. I hope I didn't go too long there.
You're okay, Randy. Go ahead, Matt.
Point being, I think he stays.
Anticlimactic. I think he stays too with Devontae. I think they both stay. I don't think it's on a long-term deal. Teams to watch out for, I think there's really only 2 teams that I can see him going to. That's Denver and Indianapolis.
I agree.
Connections with Pat McAfee. Indy has a great offensive line, good, solid defense. They've basically publicly stated they don't want Carson Wentz anymore. Jonathan Taylor. I mean, the team is very solid. The wide receiving core is average, but you can pair him with it. You can get another wide receiver to pair with Aaron Rodgers. That's not hard.
Maybe Devontae Adams.
Could be Chris Godwin, someone like that. And Denver, of course, they have the talent around. They have the cap space. John Elway wants a really tall white guy. Aaron Rodgers is that.
He's not very tall, but he's a white guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, but So but I think he stays in Green Bay. Again, like Ray said, I don't think there's a better situation. I don't think he really cares about that at this point. He just wants to win another Super Bowl. He needs to win another Super Bowl to be respected, and that's what it is. He's the most talented quarterback in my eyes of all time, but he is disappointed. And that 49ers game, you can say what you want about the special teams. He was not Aaron Rodgers in that game.
I agree.
He did not perform to what he needed to be. He knows that, and I feel like you cannot leave off that note. Losing to a 49ers again, I don't see him leaving, and I see Devontae staying. I'm going wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, but that's just me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think he stays in Green Bay, and I think Aaron Rodgers has a bad habit of wanting all the attention to be on him. It's all about Aaron Rodgers with Aaron Rodgers. He wants all the news coverage on him. He wants all the attention, and obviously this issue over in Ukraine, which is a big problem, is taking some of the shine away from Rodgers. Which, it is that's a tough topic. Obviously, it's not something we cover on here, but yeah, I think he definitely stays. I think a team you left out, Matt, is Pittsburgh. I think they clean up some cap space. I think he could land there. Devontae Adams is going to follow him wherever. They would have to clean up some major cap, let Juju walk, but I think he could land there too. But yeah, I think it makes sense for him to stay in Green Bay, and hiring Coach Rich, I think, was a huge move for Green Bay. They addressed their biggest problem in their special teams by getting the best special teams coach in the league, at least the most respected. So, I don't see him leaving. I don't see Devontae Adams leaving. I think we're going to see a very similar Packers team next year.
Absolutely.
So, all right, the next one, Matt, I'll let you take this one. This topic is under the idea that he makes it through all his legal trouble. Deshaun Watson.
When he makes it through, I think he will. I'm not sure when that it is. If he does, he will get traded. It just depends on what the deal is in it. And it looks like that the Texans are still asking for a huge, huge price. And if he gets past the team, I can definitely see taking a chance is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The reason for that is because their defense and their offense. I mean, with Big Ben last year, they're good enough to win now. And a tough AFC with these young quarterbacks, I don't feel like you in this draft class or even the next draft class is coming up. You don't have a guy except for I would say Chase Stroud from Ohio State, but Deshaun Watson, when he was playing, in my opinion, was a top 3 quarterback in the league. So taking a chance on him, especially with a good team already, with a good foundation and a great coaching staff, I feel like that's a team that could take a chance on him. Washington has been looking for a quarterback the entire time. I feel like they're going to be in the market for these big names like Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. But the main question is, does he get past his legal issues? And honestly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And if he does, what's the ask? What the Texans are asking, probably like 3 first-round picks. Our team's willing to give that up for him. Another team I could see is the Panthers. But the main question is if he does, when.
I believe the report is 7 assets, including 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, which is an incredibly high asking price, but he's a generational talent. So if he can get back out on the field, he's absolutely worth that. We're talking about a guy who there's very few quarterbacks in the NFL like him. I mean, the playmaking ability to get out of the pocket, when he gets out of the pocket, breaking sacks, the kinds of throws he makes downfield, he's really a complete player. He's extremely, extremely exciting to watch. And he came very close to willing his 4-12 Texans to several more wins, but he had 2 games at least where his wide receiver fumbled the football into the end zone in the closing seconds of football games. And the other team recovered and they lost that, where it would have been a touchdown to tie it or a touchdown to win it. So very unfortunate things going on for Houston in his last season that he played with them. It's not all on him. He's a spectacular quarterback, and absolutely there's several teams that would want to go after him. Washington's a team that you could see try to go after him. The Colts even. There's the Pittsburgh, like you said, several teams that should, if they don't have a quarterback right now they believe in, 100% should try to trade for him.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh's definitely the team to watch, especially with Brian Flores being hired there I believe he was hired as the defensive assistant and linebacker coach. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
that's right.
Okay, so it was the rumors over the course of the end of the season that wherever Brian Flores went, is Deshaun Watson was going to try to pair up with him. So I think Pittsburgh makes sense. I think they can definitely make the room for his contract, and that like you said, Mateo, that's a good team right now. They need to address the offensive line, But other than that, that is a great all-around team. So the only other team that honestly I think has a chance if they want it is Philadelphia with their 3 first-round picks this year. I don't think they would trade all 3 this year. I think they maybe trade 2 of them this year and 1 next year, the one for next year. But they've said Jalen Hurts is the guy. We've heard this before with other quarterbacks, and that hasn't actually panned out. So we don't know what that actually looks like. Nick Sirianni seems to love Jalen Hurts, but God knows why. So I mean, you got a chance to get Deshaun Watson, like you guys said, generational talent, one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's able to be on the field. I don't see why you don't go ahead and try to make those moves. And the Eagles are a decent team. They're not a great team, but they're a decent team. And getting a guy like Deshaun Watson is a very good move, especially for trying to get free agents to come in, because a lot of offensive free agents are going to see Deshaun Watson, and that's a really good quarterback, and they're going to want to play with him.
The Eagles absolutely overperformed this year. I was very impressed with them because I thought they were going to be like a 3-14 team, and then they snuck in as a 7th seed in the playoffs. So I was very impressed with their performance this year, and I think getting the guy like Deshaun Watson would take them to the next level. And one last thing about Pittsburgh: are you sure they don't want to go with Denthead at quarterback instead? That's kind of the reports. I know Mason Rudolph still has some kind of a crevice in there. Like, there's no way his head is fully formed after that blow from Myles Garrett. So
we're gonna skip past that joke, everybody, and now we're gonna move on to the next quarterback.
All right, so next one is Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'll go ahead and start on him. They're asking a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick and a player. Those reports haven't been completely confirmed, but I think that is fair value for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just hitting his 30s. I think he's still a decent quarterback. I think he gets a lot of hate. I don't think he's a franchise guy. I think he's a carryover guy. So if you want to draft someone this year, if you want to draft someone next year, maybe you let them sit behind Jimmy G. And it's kind of like what the 49ers just did this last year with Trey Lance. Let them develop a little bit, give them some more time. I think Washington is the ultimate landing spot for him. I think Tampa Bay could be in the conversation, certainly. I have somebody else that we'll talk about later going to Tampa Bay. But I certainly think that Jimmy Garoppolo is an underrated quarterback for this offseason, and I think Washington could really use him, and he fits well in that offense.
Jimmy G is a solid guy, and even though I can see Washington getting him, I definitely see him going to more of a contender or just a well-around, not like a potential team like Washington. I think he's going to go to Tampa Bay, if I'm being honest. I think Tampa Bay kind of strikes out on the big guys, and they get a guy who's solid and good enough to get him in the playoffs. Another team I can see definitely going after him is Denver. If they strike out on Aaron Rodgers or a guy like that, just a solid guy, another bridge quarterback for them if they want to draft one this year or something like that. We know that Denver does not believe in Drew Lock, so I think that partnership is out the window. So Jimmy G in my opinion, Denver or the Bucs is the most likely situation.
Yeah, I agree. Tampa Bay or Denver is really where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to end up. And you guys mentioned Tampa Bay. All I'm going to say is I just remembered that Tampa Bay is also in contention for Deshaun Watson. There's been reports that they showed a lot of interest. So we're done with Deshaun Watson now. I just remembered that, so I wanted to plug that in real quick. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Jimmy Garoppolo, either Tampa Bay or Denver, if Denver can't get a hold of a guy like Rodgers or Russell Wilson or someone of that caliber.
All right, so these next 3 are going to be very quick because I don't think that there's much talk about any of these guys. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors circulating, but I don't see them. I don't see much of a conversation here, really. So we have Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston. And I'm just going to go ahead and start real quick. Derek Carr is staying in Vegas. Russell Wilson is staying in Seattle, and Jameis Winston is going to re-sign in New Orleans. And I
agree. Yeah, I agree with all 3.
Mm-hmm. I will say one thing about the situation. I think the most likely to get traded out of all those guys is definitely Russell Wilson. I think Jameis Winston is the guy in New Orleans, and I think it would be dumb to trade him or not to re-sign him. Excuse me. Derek Carr. There's rumors every year about Derek Carr because he's one of those guys who's a 12 to 8 quarterback, so you don't really know where he fits. He's a solid quarterback. He wants to be in Vegas. You're not going to find a guy like him just as quickly, especially with a team that wants to stay in the hunt. So that would be a stupid trade. Russell Wilson, though, we don't know how he feels about Seattle. So he could. The only way I see him being traded is if he demands a trade. But that's not really who Russell Wilson is. I have him staying too, but it could be interesting. I definitely say it could be interesting.
So the thing with Russell Wilson is there's actually been multiple interviews as of recent where he said that he wants to stay in Seattle. He wants to work it out in Seattle. Seattle's where he wants to be. So, and he seems pretty genuine in those interviews. You can kind of tell when a player is bullshitting versus when they're being genuine. And he seems to be pretty genuine.
Russell Wilson is one of those stand-up guys, though, where he's not going to just flat out on camera say that he doesn't want to be there. He's one of those guys he's going to try to stick it out to the very end if he doesn't want to be there. So how much can we really take that like I feel like you can only take that with a grain of salt right now. I do have him staying still, though.
And Russell Wilson talks with that like same super friendly tone, no matter when he's talking. It's that go Hawks. So whether he wants to stay in Seattle or not, he's gonna say that in an interview, regardless of how he feels about it, until he's made up his mind completely. I don't think he finishes his career. I don't think he'll finish his career in Seattle. I see him leaving at the very latest after this contract. I don't see him signing another contract with Seattle unless they just dump all of their money at him. And then what are we going to see? We're going to see Seattle in the best division in football, going 7-10, 8-9 every year because they're paying their quarterback, and maybe 9-8 every year because they're paying their quarterback too much. So it's not a huge free agent spot since the Legion of Boom has pretty much deceased. It's not an impressive defense. So I don't see Russell Wilson staying there. I think Russell Wilson's going to look for new scenery. Not this year. I see him staying in Seattle this year, but in the future, I see him leaving.
Yeah, let's be very clear. Seattle is not a good team right now. They are very much not a good team. They have a horrible offensive line. They have a bottom half defense. Their special teams is okay. It's not impressive, but it's solid. And on offense, they have Tyler Lockett, they got DK Metcalf, and they've got, their carousel of injured running backs that can't stay healthy for 2 weeks. So, I mean, Russell Wilson, I think he loves Seattle 100%, and I think he will stay this year. But I think it's definitely something to pay attention to going forward after this upcoming season, if he decides to move after that. We'll have to see what they do this offseason. I think it's going to be a huge indicator on the future of Russell Wilson in Seattle.
Yeah, I agree. And Jameis, the Saints were 5-2 before Jameis went down with an injury, and he had them with a lead against Tampa Bay, and they closed out that game. Now, obviously, they beat Tampa Bay the next time they played him with Taysom Hill at quarterback, only scoring 9 points, but the Saints defense shut out Tom Brady. So that was huge. But Jameis Winston obviously put up 38 points in the Packers. I think the Packers defense didn't learn how to play football until the second half of week 2, but 38 points. And I believe he threw 5 touchdown passes. It's still a spectacular game, even if you're playing a defense that has no clue what they're doing, as the Packers appeared to look in that first game. Obviously, they picked it up, and by the end of the season, they were playing great football. But in that game, it was horrendous. And Jameis Winston took full advantage. He made some great plays. He was very exciting to watch. New Orleans needs to bring him back. I think they're a playoff contender with him at quarterback.
Yeah, and obviously with that situation, the Alvin Kamara situation is going to be definitely something to watch. Try to figure out what's going to end up happening there, because I think that's a big piece of what that team looks like. Without him, I don't think they're a playoff contender. With him, they definitely are. So, but yeah, we'll move on. The next one is Carson Wentz, obviously, with all the rumors about the Colts being done with him completely. Randy, I'll let you start on that one.
Carson Wentz is interesting because we've seen great things from him, obviously, but now there's just been too many years where it feels like it's just, like obviously he was an MVP contender. He had 33 touchdown passes and 7 picks back in 2017 when his team won the Super Bowl, and he goes down that ACL injury. But he just hasn't been the same since. Tons of turnovers in his last year in Philadelphia, and then he goes to an Indianapolis, and it's kind of up and down. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, and the coaching staff shows late in the season when they play good defenses, they don't trust him. He threw 7, 10 passes against the Patriots. They just ran the ball every play with Jonathan Taylor, and it worked. Jonathan Taylor had like a 70, 75-yard rushing touchdown. It wasn't quite that long, but it was a long rushing touchdown to ice it against New England. And he was really their offense. So when you have a rushing attack that's explosive with a great offensive line, they're not going to keep Carson Wentz because they lost the Jags. If they beat the Jaguars, Carson Wentz is a Colt this year. I'm very confident in that. But he played poorly versus the worst team in football, and they lost to the worst team in football. So I still think that some team could pick him up and he could possibly turn it around. He has the potential to turn it around, but we're just not seeing that from him right now. So Indianapolis is not the place it's going to be next year.
Yeah, and the rumors I think are all true about Carson Wentz. Indianapolis has like basically shown they do not want Carson Wentz, and I fully agree with that. I think that's the main point. Carson Wentz did not make the playoffs this year with the Colts. I think that's the main thing. He had a chance and he couldn't beat the Jaguars. Doesn't matter. People act like Carson Wentz was this superhero this year. He just wasn't as bad as he was last year, so it makes him look a lot better. He might have been a top 20 quarterback this year. He had some good plays, but again, that team was Jonathan Taylor, offensive line, and defense. Teams I can see him getting traded to I bring up Denver a lot, but Denver makes a lot of sense. I mean, Denver has the weapons for Carson Wentz and the cap space from Washington, again, if they strike out. There's not a lot of teams that really that are desperate for a quarterback that would take in Carson Wentz. So, but I think Denver is another. I think he'll go to Denver, in my opinion.
And Denver's a very similarly built team. Like their offensive line's not as good as the Colts, but they've got a very talented running back who, again, is not as good as Jonathan Taylor, but it's a very talented running back. It's a run-centric offense. They've got moderate talent at receiver, probably slightly better talent at receiver, maybe than the Colts. It's pretty close. An excellent defense. Not as much star power as the Colts have. Well, Colts have Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner, I believe, right? So not quite as much star power as the Colts, but a very solid defense. So I feel like they're very similarly built teams. So I think Denver is a team that makes sense. I agree.
Yeah, and you guys are talking about him getting traded. He won't get traded. The Colts won't be able to move him. I guarantee that. He has $22 million contract with $15 million of that guaranteed. No team in their right mind watching his performance last year is going to make a trade and take that contract. They are going to have to cut him, and they're going to have to cut their losses. They already lost a first-round pick and I believe a third-round pick, and they've screwed themselves. They're going to have to just let it go. I mean, you cannot continue to move forward with this guy based on how he performed this past year. And Mateo, you were way too nice about it. He did not play well. He was not a good quarterback last year. He made stupid passes. He can't leave the pocket anymore. We saw that this year. He's not as much of a mobile guy anymore as he was before his injuries in Philadelphia. He's just not as good. And obviously they were running the ball a lot because Jonathan Taylor was an absolute beast this year, but they were running the ball mostly because they couldn't get the pass game to work. And you guys earlier, I think you understated the Colts receivers are not bad. Michael Pittman is a fantastic receiver. And Zach Pascal, I think, is very underrated. And T.Y. Hilton as a third option is pretty solid. So they've still got a decent receiving core there. I think they're going to have to cut him. And I think the Buccaneers are the team to scoop him up. I think that makes sense. I think they've got a good enough team where he doesn't have to be that good. And they just need a solid quarterback there. They don't need a great quarterback. They just need a solid quarterback to be a contender because they still got a pretty good defense. They've got the best offensive line in football, and they've got so many weapons. Even if Chris Godwin walks, they've still got weapons everywhere. Obviously, Gronk and Godwin, both free agents this offseason, so we don't know what that looks like. But Carson Wentz, I think Tampa Bay is the place that he's going to end up.
I should have said that. I think you're completely right. I don't think he gets traded either. I think I said that wrong. What I'm thinking, I think he ends up with Denver after they cut him. They cannot trade him. If they do trade him, it would be very, very shocking at what they get back. But I do agree. I do think he ends up with Denver still.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts try to make a trade where they still take a portion of his salary. Like they can do that. They can trade him and then say, you don't have to pay all of his salary. We're still going to pay some of his salary. And that would be better than simply cutting him.
Well, yeah, what they would do in that situation is they wouldn't say they're paying the salary. They would send money with him. That's how those trades work. The money is part of the package. Here's his contract, but here's like 3/4 of that contract in cash or in cap value, whatever. But yeah, I think that's all there is to say about Carson Wentz. He's probably going to get cut. The Colts might have to work something out, but either way, the Colts lost that trade big time, and the Colts are going to suffer for it in these next couple of years.
And I think the Eagles made the playoffs with the Colts missing the playoffs after that trade. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. And the Eagles, they got 3 first-round picks, which that's a topic I think for another podcast to definitely talk about some of those pieces they could be looking at. But we'll move on to our last quarterback here. This is a guy that I don't think is getting enough recognition for being a free agent this offseason. And I think he could be a great quarterback still. Marcus Mariota. And I'm going to go ahead and start on him since he's on the Raiders at the moment. He was obviously injured for a lot of this year. When he stepped in for Derek Carr 2 years ago, he played really good football. And I think the Raiders offense is the ideal offense. Well, the Raiders offense then was the ideal offense that Marcus Mariota needs to fit into. A good O-line, a running back with some power, and some physical receivers. And that's what we were looking at for the Raiders 2 years ago when he stepped in, and he played really well. And I think a team that fits that is Indianapolis. And I think when Indy doesn't land one of these big time names and they move Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota is going to be sitting there. And I don't see a better fit with any team than Indianapolis. They've got a really good offensive line when they're healthy. They've got one of the best running backs in football, obviously, in Jonathan Taylor, coming off of a fantastic year, and Michael Pittman. And you pair him with somebody like Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin or even Sammy Watkins. I know Sammy Watkins is not fantastic, but just some veteran receiver that you can pair Pittman with. That's a really good offense. And that's an offense that fits really well with a quarterback that is mobile like Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. I don't see him being a starter next year. I don't think he'll be a starter in this league next year. I don't know where the market value is for Marcus Mariota. I don't think teams know. I don't think teams are confident enough in Marcus Mariota, knowing what he did in Tennessee. Even though there's been flashes with Oakland where they run those weird sets. I don't think there's enough. Yeah, you're right. Vegas. I don't think there's enough to give him a land him a starting job. I think he'll be a backup for a team that needs a backup, maybe like Seattle, a team like that. I can definitely see a team like I think Seattle is probably the most likely landing spot with all the Russell Wilson moves and all that. A quarterback we haven't talked about, and I think that will get a starting job next year, and for Washington, is Teddy Bridgewater. I think Teddy Bridgewater is one of those guys who's just going to be solid. I think he's another bridge quarterback. He's a free agent this year, and I think he'll land in Washington.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, I agree with you, Mateo. I still don't see him as a starting caliber quarterback, and I don't believe really any franchise in the NFL sees him as a starting caliber quarterback. But like Connor said, if the Colts fail to land a high-profile guy at quarterback, I think it's a very good possibility that they settle on Mariota. And Mariota could have success with the Colts. If there was a team that's built to win with Marcus Mariota, it is absolutely the Colts. They've got, like Connor said, excellent offensive line, physical wide receiver, great power running back, and a good defense too. With Darius Leonard, who's a top linebacker, DeForest Buckner wreaks havoc in the center of the defensive line. So if there's a team that Marcus Mariota could have success with, I absolutely see it happening in Indianapolis, and he'd get to play his old team twice a year. So a little bit of revenge there. Get to play the guy that beat him out for the job 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Ryan Tannehill, because the Titans are going to keep him. So, but I agree with you. I think Marcus Mariota is a backup. I think he stays a backup next year.
And you know what? We weren't going to talk about Teddy Bridgewater. I didn't have him on the list, but let's go ahead and talk about him because you brought him up. I think he's someone I kind of forgot about. And I'm going to make it very clear. Teddy Bridgewater is not a starting quarterback, period. He's just not. He performed poorly this year and he got hurt. That guy can't stay healthy. He can't take a hit without being hurt. I mean, he limps every time he gets hit. And that's because his knees they're freaking spaghetti. I mean, they're literally spaghetti noodles. Like those things snap with the littlest pressure. And I love Teddy Bridgewater. Don't get me wrong. Teddy Two Gloves is my guy. I'm rooting for him every year that he's on the field. You know, I think everybody's rooting for him in the league. I mean, he's one of those guys that everyone just likes, but he's not a starter anymore. He doesn't have the arm for it. He can't stay healthy. He's not as fast, agile as he used to be. And he's old. He's getting old. He's a decent backup option. He's not a starter.
You were a little harsh, but overall, I do agree with you. And if you put him in the right system, he can win. We saw him go 5-0 with New Orleans a couple years ago. So he's not incapable of winning. But like you said, he's not a franchise guy. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl. He's not really going to win you a playoff game unless he pulls Nick Foles and gets red hot at the right time. Like Nick Foles isn't going to take you through a season and win you a Super Bowl. Teddy Bridgewater is better than Nick Foles, but similar thing. He's not going to take you through a season, take you through the playoffs, and take you to a Super Bowl and win that Super Bowl, which is what every team is ultimately going to want from their quarterback. Teddy Two Gloves isn't the guy for that. I like him a lot. Like you said, everyone's rooting for him, but he's a high-end backup, and he's a bridge starting quarterback.
Randy, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on. I think not all teams right now are looking for that. They're not looking for a Super Bowl quarterback right now. I think Washington, after they strike out from a lot of guys, is looking for a guy that can be a 1-year quarterback who won't be
Absolutely.
awful, but can also be a quarterback.
Yeah.
Can also be a quarterback that can develop a guy behind him. Maybe they drafted Kenny Pickett this year, a guy like that, Malik Willis, or they wait till next year to draft the quarterback. I think Teddy Bridgewater, unlike Marcus Mariota, has proven something in this league where every team knows at times Teddy Bridgewater can be an okay quarterback enough to win you a game. So that's the reason I have him being a starting quarterback next year is there's no questions with what Teddy Bridgewater is.
No, Mateo, listen, I'm not saying that if he's not a Super Bowl caliber guy, teams aren't going to get him because most guys aren't Super Bowl caliber guys. What I'm saying is that every team wants a Super Bowl caliber guy, obviously. And Teddy Bridgewater is not that guy, so he's not going to be someone that teams are going to commit to long term. But for a season, maybe two, they can build a roster around him, entice one of these quarterbacks who might not be happy in a situation. Russell Wilson, maybe Aaron Rodgers. I still don't see that Rodgers leaving Green Bay, but if he does, Teddy Bridgewater is kind of a placeholder. So he's a team that, like you said, Washington is a team that not going to attract a great quarterback this year unless Russell Wilson or maybe Deshaun Watson. But if they can't get that, Teddy Bridgewater is a bridge quarterback. So that's what teams would want him for. So I do agree with you in that regard.
Again, we saw this a lot with a lot of teams with the guy Tyrod Taylor, who they would sign to a 1-year deal, draft a quarterback behind him to let them develop a little bit. I think that's what Washington will do, especially with the quarterback position not being very good in the draft. They're saying, I think at 13, no, maybe somewhere around that. I think the Browns have the 13th pick. Anyway, they're saying somewhere around there where Malik Willis, I think is a guy that definitely could be selected there. And I would not hate that if they get Teddy Bridgewater and a Malik Willis quarterback situation. What could Malik Willis be if he's not very good? You move on. You have Teddy Bridgewater. So that's my prediction for Washington.
See,
I agree.
I think if you're Washington, I think you guys are forgetting Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, he got hurt earlier this year. He's got to be looking to play next year. And he already knows the system. And if they can't land one of those big guys, you keep him. Because, that Fitz magic is the same thing you're talking about with Teddy Bridgewater's ceiling at this point. And they're very similar in that they're both getting old, not as good as they used to be, but can occasionally shine and be good enough. And I think they just stick with the guy that they've already got in their system. I don't think anybody's going to be going high on Fitzpatrick this offseason. So that's someone you can sign for cheap, draft a quarterback. Someone you left out was Matt Corral. I could definitely see him landing in Washington. He makes sense in that offense. But yeah, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick would make more sense than Teddy B. Again, love Teddy B, always rooting for him, but I don't see a team giving him the reins as a starter at the beginning of the year in week 1.
I completely forgot about Fitzmagic. Yeah, if Washington can't land a big time guy, they're going to stick with Fitzmagic. I completely forgot about him. I agree with you 100%. Also, I have no clue where Bridgewater would go then. I don't know. I have no idea where Teddy Two Gloves would land up.
He'll go somewhere. He's good enough. He's a good enough player to be a backup anywhere. So
absolutely, yeah. Just where is the question? And honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, and obviously we'll see on all these guys in the coming weeks. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, he's the big one to watch. He's supposed to give his decision to the Packers here soon, which his decision isn't indicative of what the Packers will do. Just because he wants traded doesn't mean they will. I think they would, but doesn't 100% mean they will. But we'll watch all these guys over these coming weeks. Obviously, going to be very, very big month, 2 months here to watch them, and we'll figure it out as they go on.
I'm watching the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday, just to see.
Good call. All right, we go.
Any last thoughts or anything? Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback when healthy. Bye.
Okay. Well, if you made it to this point of the video, thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you like what you see. And if you want to see more, subscribe and turn on the notifications. We will see you next time.